The storm had been growing all afternoon, crawling slowly across the plains like something alive. By sundown it swallowed the horizon entirely, thick clouds coiling over Red Hollow, until the ranchers couldn't tell sky from earth. The wind didn't whistle. It howled, rolling dust in long spirals that stretched across the ground, like the tails of angry spirits. Clara Whitlow didn't belong out there. Not tonight. Not in a storm this mean. But her horse carried her as fast as it could, hooves pounding through the mud as rain dripped from the brim of her hat and soaked through her coat until it felt like she was wearing a second skin. Every breath stung, every blink burned. She kept looking over her shoulder, not because of the lightning, not because of the thunder, but because she knew someone had followed her out of town. She felt it, felt the eyes on her back, felt the echo of that hand grabbing her wrist outside the saloon, felt the rasp of a voice whispering something she'd never forget. You talk back like that again? And I'll make sure you learn where your place is. Then the sheriff told her to go home. Lay low, pretend nothing happened. But Clara had never been good at staying quiet. And whoever grabbed her didn't want quiet, they wanted something worse, so she rode, harder, faster, deeper into the ranchlands where people didn't usually wander. She didn't know where she was going until she saw a faint glow through the storm, tiny, flickering, impossible, a lantern. No, too soft, a fire, a cabin, she didn't know whose land she'd crossed into. She didn't care. Shelter was shelter, and right now the storm felt like it wanted to peel her off the earth. She leaned forward, tapped her boot against her horse's flank, and felt the animal lunge toward the ridge. When the cabin finally took shape through the sheets of rain, she almost couldn't breathe. Wood, stone chimney, smoke curling from the top. And thank heaven a porch wide enough for a horse to stand under. Clara slid off the saddle, legs trembling from cold and adrenaline, and stumbled up the steps. Her hair clung to her cheeks, her coat glued to her skin. She lifted her fist to knock, but the door opened first, and Elias Thorne filled the doorway like a wall. She'd heard his name spoken in tones half fear, half respect. A rancher who minded his own business. A man with scars he didn't bother hiding. A man who had no patience for lies, noise, or cowards. Some said he didn't talk more than a dozen words a day. Others swore he kept the Wolf as a friend. He wasn't a man you approached twice. He wasn't a man you crossed once. Rain poured down behind her in a sheet of cold silver, and Clara suddenly felt smaller than ever. His eyes moved from her face to her dripping coat to her shaking hands. Storm's getting worse. He said, voice low, steady, gravelly. Get inside. She didn't question it. Didn't even speak. She stepped in, and he shut the door behind her with a heavy thud that made the windows rattle. Warmth wrapped around her instantly. A fire burned in the hearth, bright and alive, its glow flickering across the simple wooden room. A table, 2 chairs. A bed in the corner. Tools neatly hung. No chaos. No mess. Just quiet. Her breath stuttered as the cold let go of her body, piece by piece. Sit, he said. Nodding toward the chair closest to the fire, she moved toward it automatically, like her body had decided long before her mind caught up. She lowered herself into the chair, boots dripping onto the wooden floor, hands knotted in her lap. Elias crossed the room, grabbed a folded blanket off a trunk, and tossed it to her. She caught it with numb fingers. Her voice barely worked. Thank you. He didn't reply, not yet. Instead, he walked to the hearth, poked the logs, and added another piece of wood. Sparks lifted, swirling like fireflies. The crackle was the only sound for a moment, until the storm growled outside deep enough to shake the cabin. Clara flinched. Elias didn't. You rode out in this, he finally said. More a statement than a question. Had to, she whispered. Why? Her throat tightened. The words were there, they just refused to leave her mouth. He turned his head slowly, waiting. She clenched her jaw, trying to swallow down the sting in her eyes. But the moment she lifted the blanket to wrap it around herself, her soaked coat bunched beneath it, heavy and cold. Sticking to her skin like a punishment, she tugged at one sleeve. It didn't move. Asterisk, she tugged harder, panic flashing hot across her chest. Asterisk, it stayed glued to her arm. Waterlogged and stiff. Asterisk, her breath caught. She pulled again, harder, too hard. Asterisk, Elias straightened from the fire, brow tightening. Stop, he said. I just need it off, she gasped. I took it off, please. Her voice cracked like glass under pressure. The sleeve twisted, trapping her elbow. Please. Elias froze, not because he didn't understand, asterisk, because he understood exactly why she was shaking, asterisk. He stepped toward her slow, careful, like approaching a frightened horse. Asterisk, Clara. Asterisk, it was the first time he said her name. She didn't remember telling it to him. Maybe he'd heard it around town. Maybe he just knew things the same way. Storms knew how to break fences. Asterisk, don't fight the coat, he said quietly. You'll strain your shoulder? Asterisk, she lifted her head, eyes wet. I can't, asterisk, I know. He knelt in front of her. She stopped breathing. Asterisk, he reached for the sleeve, not grabbing, not rushing, just placing his fingers gently on the soaked fabric. His touch was steady, calm, controlled in a way she desperately needed. Let me help, he said. She nodded. Just barely. Asterisk, Elias worked the coat free inch by inch, using strength only where needed, easing the wet leather away from her skin. She felt ridiculous, small, embarrassed that she couldn't even take off a coat. But he didn't make a sound about it. Asterisk, the moment the last sleeve slid free, the breath she'd held broke from her chest in a shaking exhale. Asterisk, Elias folded the coat and placed it near the fire to dry. When he stood, his shadow stretched across the room, long and dark and steady. Asterisk, what happened in town? He asked quietly. Asterisk, Clara stared into the flames. The memories clawed at her throat. I said something I shouldn't have, she whispered. Elias crossed his arms. To who? Asterisk, a man I didn't know. Asterisk, what did he do? Asterisk, she swallowed hard. Followed me outside. Grabbed my wrist. Told me if I talked back again, he'd show me my place. Elias didn't move, didn't blink, asterisk, but the temperature in the cabin shifted, subtle but unmistakable. The air grew tighter, like the silence itself was preparing for something violent. Asterisk, name. He said, asterisk, her heartbeat skipped. Elias, please, asterisk, name. Asterisk, it doesn't matter, she said. I just needed to get away from town. I didn't come out here so you could, asterisk. He turned away, walked to the wall, and took his coat off the peg. She stopped mid-sentence. Elias? What are you doing? He didn't answer. He slung the coat over his shoulders, grabbed his hat from the table, and tightened the strap on the holster at his hip. The movement was methodical, practiced, not rushed. Men who planned to intimidate made noise. Men who planned to act moved like this. Asterisk, he opened the door. Rain exploded inside, whipping the flame in the hearth until it danced wildly. Asterisk, Elias. He turned his head slightly, enough for her to see the steel in his jaw. You're safe here, he said. You stay inside? You open that door for no one but me. Asterisk, her pulse hammered. Where are you going? He stepped onto the porch. To make sure no one in Red Hollow ever thinks about grabbing you again. Asterisk, lightning cracked across the sky, and for a moment his silhouette looked like part of the storm itself, broad, cold, unstoppable. Asterisk, Elias. She called again, but the wind swallowed her voice. He walked into the darkness. Asterisk, she stood in the doorway, shaking, breath caught between fear and something she couldn't name yet. Asterisk, because tonight, Red Hollow had two storms, one in the sky and one wearing a rancher's coat.